So we were just driving down the highway and we found this majestic lake. Leah's decided that she's gonna go for a swim, because why the hell not?
Oh.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, it's so good.
Hey team, welcome back to another Levi's Save the World Hildebrand episode, the channel where we prove that you don't need to be a hero to save the planet. Today we are hanging out in a very chilly part of British Columbia on one of our last days here in the van. And this video, we're going to summarize our experience living in this incredibly tiny space and figuring out whether or not it lives up to all the hype that you see online. I'm very happy to say that Skillshare is sponsoring this video, helping us keep the lights and the heat on when we need them. I can literally see my breath right now. It's August. Welcome to Canada.
Woo.
All right, let's get this coffee going. So since picking up this van, Leah and I have had some amazing experiences. And we've been treating it a bit like a vacation, but also testing the waters to see if van life was something that we might want to do full time.
We swam in over 12 different bodies of water. We went on some amazing hikes, and we discovered some pretty amazing things along the way that we had no idea was even there.
So van life is an amazing opportunity and a lifestyle that many aspire to have, but there's a lot of limitations and there's certain things that you kind of have to be able to do if van life is going to work for you. While van life was born out of a housing crisis where people weren't able to live in traditional apartments and homes because of high rental costs, it's now become kind of a bougie activity. Like, this van behind us is worth over $100,000.
It's super hip, super trendy.
Exactly. You aren't going to be able to do van life unless you have a certain amount of capital to outlay for it.
So for some, it might be a really cool vacation, but we were fortunate enough that we could work at the same time, so we could go for a longer period, which we know isn't available to everyone.
So working out of the van was pretty interesting. We both were able to work inside of the van, and while we didn't have our own stand-up desks, it was actually pretty functional. Finding Wi-Fi was probably the most difficult part of the trip because we were traveling in rural and remote areas where there wasn't even cell phone service a lot of the time. So for us, being people who create and share our work online, that was really challenging.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time sitting in the van in random parking lots just stealing Wi-Fi.
And that's something that I think a lot of people overlook when they think about van life. And that's the not so glorious gray area that van life exists within. Van life is kind of a weird middle ground. You're not camping, but you're also not in a camper or motorhome. You're in between there somewhere, and that's why you hear a lot about stealth camping and people being able to find off-grid living situations. We were actually able to spend almost half of our nights on this trip in free, unregulated, non-campground situations.
And that's one of the great things about the camper van too, is that you're totally self-sufficient. Normally we sleep in a tent, and that's a bit more conspicuous. Being able to have everything we need in the van so that if we needed to move anytime, it made it pretty easy.
That being said, if you're not comfortable bending the rules,
I had a few times of being like, ooh, okay, the church parking lot, ooh.
So if that is something you're not comfortable with, maybe van life is not for you.
We slept around back of abandoned buildings, in our friends' driveways, ate lunch while driving, and had some less than ideal bathroom situations.
I'm not going to show it, but Leah is peeing behind the door right here.
Why are you doing this?
You can't see it.
Don't
I would
film it.
never show it, but Leah is peeing right down here. And that's just the nature of the game sometimes. You're living in the van, you're gonna pee on the side of the road. You just gotta accept that. I love you. But all of these kind of awkward and inconvenient situations are overshadowed by the freedom and adventure that you get to experience when you are living on the road in a van. So on that note, we are going to go for a hike. See, if you're living in a van, then you're doing it because you're looking for adventure, and you need to be willing to accept whatever that brings along with it. You need to be excited about those new things and embrace those sudden changes and random changes of plan, because that's where the real magic happens. Halfway through our trip, Leah and I heard about this hike that we could do that required a 30-minute off-road trek into the bush. And we weren't even sure we were gonna make it, but once we did, this is where we ended up camping. Because we were able to spend the night at this lake, we were able to get up super early and get a head start on everyone else the next day. Isn't this awesome? Oh my God. See, traveling in a van, unlike other transportation methods, allows you to find and discover things that weren't on your traveling itinerary.
Like this. Honestly, some of our favorite things about this trip are things that were totally unexpected. We just stumbled upon them, be it communities, funky restaurants, or waterfalls. It's awesome.
But you don't get to check out majestic waterfalls with your beautiful wife in the middle of August when you aren't able to work when you're on the road. And that's why I'm stoked to be partnering with Skillshare for this video. If you don't already know what Skillshare is, it's an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. You can explore new skills or deepen existing passions that might manifest into some kind of work down the road.
Maybe you want to explore drawing or baking or even starting a podcast or a YouTube channel.
Honestly, as weird as it sounds, I'm a full-time YouTuber now, and
I'm a full-time YouTuber wife. Oh, so weird.
And we would never have been able to do either of these things if we didn't learn the skills to make these videos. There's actually an incredible series on Skillshare called iPhone Filmmaking, which teaches you how to create your own video content using the device that you have in your pocket. This could be something fun and creative for you to try out on your spare time, or it could lead to some kind of nomadic business that you build for yourself, and you can live in your van.
Just like us.
So for the first 1,000 subscribers who click the link down in the description will get a 2-month free premium Skillshare membership trial.
Nice.
Okay, but now we're going to answer the question, will we be doing van life full time?
Let's go.
Now, Leah and I are super lucky to be able to live and work in this van. And she's about to burp. Leah and I are super lucky to be able to do what we're doing, but would we do it full time?
I think we could. I think we could.
All year?
I don't really like winter. I don't like being cold. Realistically though, not having a place where you can reliably recycle and compost and things like that, that's such a pain, and that would bug me every time we cook a meal.
Yeah.
So, like 3 times a day.
I think the reality is that across the board, van life is not as sustainable as the way that we were living before, and that's a big priority for us. But there are a bunch of ways that we have found van life to be really sustainable. First, I want to get into these stupid propane tanks.
Oh my God.
As I mentioned in the previous video, these propane tanks are disposable. And there were some amazing comments on the previous video that explained that these are refillable, but it's not recommended. And I think whenever something that has giant extreme danger stickers written on the side of it, and they say that it's not recommended that you refill it. Most people aren't. So we found a really great workaround. We found a adapter cable for a full-size propane tank, filled it, and then used our Coleman stove as normal.
Also, it's so insane that they have these tiny things for gas, but like you can cook, what, 2 meals on it, maybe 3, and it's just a way to make money.
On top of this, propane tanks are fully recyclable. You take them back to a hardware store or to a scrap metal facility. I find this stuff so infuriating, and it was really satisfying for us to be able to find a solution.
Also, I think living in a van, you're just way more aware of how much you consume, but then how much waste you create as well, because you don't have a lot of space to store it, and so you're constantly aware of what you're creating and what you're using in that space.
The van has a voltage meter inside that shows you how much charge you have left in your battery, and I think that that's so crazy for most people to think of, actually monitoring how much energy they're using, because I think for most people you just turn on the lights and you just go about your day and you don't really think about it.
Or you plug in your laptop and you just let it sit, or you forget about it overnight. And if you did that in the van, I mean, the battery would be okay, but you're so much more aware of, okay, when I'm on my computer or when I'm using electronics, I'll be really intentional with my use because I know that it's gonna take that much more time to recharge it.
The same goes for water use. We have a gray water and a freshwater tank underneath the sink, and we have to physically go and refill our freshwater tank in order to use it. And then we have to pour out the gray water, which is all the water that we've used up to that point. And so you see quite literally how much you have consumed during that period of time.
Do you remember there was in one of the other videos, Levi talks about washing the dishes and how he has his specific method? Well, if you live in a van, everyone would have this specific method of using the least amount of water, because you're using a full thing of water every time you wash your dishes. Well, you're just emptying that gray tank way more often.
Not only that, but it gives you a great appreciation for the modern luxuries of plumbing. We had a bit of a mistake in the van, which resulted in water all over the floor because we forgot to put the tube back into the gray water tank.
Also, we were lucky enough on this trip to find a way to properly dispose of our waste. It was a really lucky find on our part, and that was the only one we saw on our trip that had compost and proper recycling.
This was huge for us because we had actually been storing all of our recycling and stashing it under the sink as long as possible, waiting for something like that. But this would be something that you would be faced with if you lived in a van full time. So I don't think that we're gonna live in a van full time. I think that we appreciate too many of the luxuries that allow for a more sustainable lifestyle to be led, and we enjoy the structure and the routines of living in one place for more than a few days.
And owning pottery and glassware, things that are not van conducive.
Leah's whole thing is like, I can't have pottery, so I'm out.
I love pottery. It'd be so sad. Every time you hear things move, I'm like, oh, if I had my favorite pottery bowl, smash, smash, broken.
Perfect.
I think what we figured out about van life, though, is it'll be an awesome alternative as a vacation. We try not to fly, but because of my job especially, I have to go to conferences to build my career, and because of COVID, that's not really an option right now. Whereas this might be a great way to travel, but have less of an impact on the planet.
As a couple, traveling in a van does have a lower carbon footprint to most locations than long-haul flights would. So within North America, for us, having a van would be a really incredible way to attend conferences, collaborate with other creators, and see our families. Are we gonna buy a van and convert it? No,
those are not our skills.
Don't really have the skills to do that. We might just keep renting from Karma. We'll use our own discount code that you can also use, Hildebrand50, to save yourself $50 on any rental for the next year.
That's pretty good.
It's a lot easier than converting your own van.
They should have made it Tidy50. My name's so much easier to spell than yours.
Oh, that's so true. But regardless of your feelings about van life and whether or not you would do it, I want to thank you for watching this video and for taking the time out of your day to spend some time with us. Want to say the last bit?
Sure. Yes, I'm nervous. And if you are subscribed to this channel, which you very much should be, then we will see you in the next one.
Bye. See, I did your thing now.
Mine's so easy. Bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.